All right, my screen says we are live. Today is the 29th day of January 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vermont State Senate Committee on Institutions. I'm Joe Benning, your host of today's events. We have Senator Mazza from Grand Isle, Senator Ingalls from Essex Orleans, Senator Parent from Franklin, and Senator McCormick from Windsor County. You changed screens on me there all of a sudden. I don't know why we jump all over the screen from time to time, depending on who's popping in and out.
Denise did that.
Oh, well, that explains it. We are here to talk about the current capital projects that are going on, as well as the deferred maintenance schedule and operational costs. I have several people on the list of witnesses. I have a feeling that only one or two of them are going to be talking with us today. And to all of the folks who are here with us, should you happen to be giving us an explanation of things from your angle, one of the things I would ask you to keep in mind is that we have a brand new committee. We have 3 new individuals on it, although one of those 3 is an old hat at it from a long time ago. We have 1 brand new legislator, and we also are live on YouTube, which means there is a cohort out there that it could be nobody and it could be thousands. We just have no idea, but they are also in the position of learning about things for the first time. So as we are going forward today, as each one of you gets on the screen, we are doing some basic introductions, not just what your title is, but who you are, how you fit into state government, how you got into state government, just so that our team players on the committee have some basic understanding of who you are and how you fit into the picture with the Capitol bill. Joe, you are first on deck. I don't know whether you had preference that somebody else was going to go first, but you're the first name I see on my list. I'm taking your lead.
Probably only because it's alphabetical, sir.
Okay.
Though I am doing the lead on this and doing the current project. So I'm Joe Aja. I'm the Director of Design and Construction for Buildings and General Services. Chairman, would you like me to introduce the staff or go right into it?
Your preference.
Well, let's do the staff, and then I'll tell you a little about myself. I'll tell you about myself first and then the staff. So I've been here for well over 30 plus years. I think I'm going on 37. Came right out of college and landed a summer job with buildings, and worked my way up through from drafting and to now to director. So I've seen quite a the buildings that we've constructed and been a part of it.
How long have you been at it now?
Some 37 years, I think.
The real trick as you introduce your staff will be, how much do you actually know about your staff?
Well, now, probably some good and some bad. No. I'll start with 2 people that we have here today are my program chiefs, Jeremy Stevens and Lauren Washburn. Jeremy is new with us, just over a year. We had reorged under the Commissioner Cole administration, and at that point, instead of 2 directors, we had 1 director and 2 program chiefs. They each manage 6 project managers at this point in time. And I'll let Jeremy give you a little background of himself. But like I said, he's been here a year, and he's managing 6 of our basically the licensed individuals. They're not all licensed, but he happens to be in that realm more than with Lauren Washburn, who's been here around 15 years, something like that. No. And she manages the 6 project managers that are liaisons. We have created liaisons when we went away from being a facilities group, and our liaison program, and I'll let Lauren speak to that, is about keeping in touch with maintenance, operations and maintenance. And so in the past history, my early years here, the engineering and construction division would go through, do a renovation, do a project, and then turn it over to maintenance and say goodbye. Now we're more about staying there and helping them through, because there's always issues throughout life in a building. And so we're the ones who potentially initially constructed it, and we're involved to the end to help them. With that, Jeremy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to meet you. My name is Jeremy Stevens. As Joe mentioned, I am one of the program chiefs in Buildings and General Services, the Design and Construction Division. I have been here for just over a year, about 14 months now. My background is civil engineering. I oversee 6 project managers, and 2 of those project managers are our mechanical engineers. They split the state in the East and West divisions and oversee all of our mechanical equipment and projects. I also oversee our contracted project managers, which we currently have 2 active. I oversee our selection committees when we're choosing design firms and construction management firms based on qualifications. And I also help facilitate our internal reviews when we get plan sets and other design documents for review and align the comments and get those back to our consultants. A little bit of background. I said I'm a civil engineer. I'm originally from Alaska, moved out this way 2.5 years ago. My wife is originally from Hardwick, so not too different here than Southeast Alaska, to be honest with you, and fitting right in. And thank you very much.
And are you living in Hardwick now?
No, we actually bought a home in Barrie.
Okay. What part of Alaska?
Southeast. I'm originally from Juneau, and we were recently living in Haines, Alaska before we moved out this way.
Okay.
I lived on Adak, Alaska, Aleutian Island chain, 1,200 miles out.
You were way out there, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, I've actually ridden my motorcycle out there twice and been all around the state. Great place.
Very nice.
Except it's probably still dark there right about now.
It's dark right now. I think we're colder than Southeast Alaska, but it is darker there.
Yep. Well, welcome to Vermont.
Thank you very much. We love it.
How did you become involved in state government?
Oh, I did some military time after I graduated from the University of Kansas in civil engineering, and went to state government after leaving the U.S. Navy back in Alaska. So went home, stayed there for a while, and then started my own firm and dabbled around there a little bit. And then we started growing a family, and in small town Alaska, growing a family was pretty tough logistically. So we decided to get out to Vermont where we had family closer that we could visit more often, and call in an airstrike once in a while when we needed a babysitter, although the pandemic kind of ruined all that. And so I came out this way. I actually worked with Du Bois and King, was who I first worked with when I got to the state of Vermont, and stuck with them for a year and realized I need, how to get even closer to our new home in Barrie. So started looking at state government, and very fortunate to have landed this position with Mr. Asia, and the rest of the BGS team has been fantastic.
Great. Lauren, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Lauren Washburn. I am the other program chief for design and construction. I oversee the 6 project managers that Joe mentioned that are the district liaisons. So 2 are fairly new to our staff. They've come on in the last year or so. And I've got 2 architects and 2 civil engineers that make up that group of 6. And so the district liaison program is really just trying to bridge that gap between operations and maintenance and engineering. Like Joe said, we would finish building a project and be done. And if something went wrong, maintenance thought we didn't design it right, and we thought they didn't maintain it right. So this gets us talking more, and we help them with small projects if they need help with paperwork or permit questions, code compliance questions. If things keep happening, it's a great way for us to, talk to them and realize, okay, this is broken multiple times now. What can we be doing differently? And that person who is assigned to the district gets to know the district facility manager that oversees all the buildings in that area, and then also their staff, and then those buildings. So when operations and maintenance has a question, they can call somebody in design and construction who knows the building that they're talking about, where in the building they're talking about, and can help work through some of their challenges that they are dealing with, every day out in the field. So
how did you come to state government?
Very similar to Joe, I was at VTC, and I got a summer job between my junior and senior year there, and in BGS in the CAD department, and then was temporary for a little while when I graduated, and then ended up getting a project manager position and have worked my way up to program chief.
Okay. Somehow or other, we're going to teach Senator Mazza how to put his mute button on. I am anxious to hear about current projects. Joe, I don't know if you were going to have that discussion or who else you wanted to hand it off to.
It was going for this. I'm going to do that in the future for future projects and ongoing. Jeremy Stevens will be the lead, and I'll take the back bench for the future because he's really going to be the person behind creating our end of the capital bill and managing that, and the people who are going to be behind some of these projects. But since he's only been here a year, I probably know a little bit more about some of these projects. I'll tackle that first, and Lauren will be doing the deferred major and major maintenance projects. Do you want me to run through section 2 from the top all the way down?
I'd be happy to have you do that.
Okay. So in the spreadsheet that I think you've seen out there, that for the recommend and approval of 2 acts, we start with buildings and general services and engineering and architectural cost.
So let me just freeze you, Joe, for a second and say to the community at large who may be watching, when Joe refers to the recommend, that's the governor has now sent out a recommended capital bill expenditure. His suggestions are incorporated into a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet is what Joe is now referring to as we walk through that, I'm guessing, item by item.
Okay, thank you. So buildings and general services, engineering and architectural cost. This is, since I've been here, has gone back and forth between the general fund and the capital bill. And still most recently, it looks that all of my staff come out of capital bill funds to do all of these capital construction and major maintenance projects. And I want to say it's been like that for the past 10 years now. Statewide physical security enhancements. That is part of our BGS security division, where they're putting in card access systems and maintaining the card access systems, along with any of the video systems that we have throughout the state. They also do emergency and panic buttons throughout some of our construction and our buildings. And I believe when we get to that and the capital bill request for this biennium, Margie Clark will be presenting on that. Statewide major maintenance. Lauren later on will go through the projects that we have done, but that is a chunk of money that comes to us and is made up of multiple smaller projects. We try to limit them to no more than 500,000, but a lot of them are down around below 100,000 that are ongoing.
Before you go on, Joe, let me just ask a question. When I pulled up to the State House this first week in January, as the Senate got together for the first time, my swipe card wouldn't allow me in. And I noticed that there was a new intercom button I could press to call for help. Can you tell me why it is that my swipe card wasn't working? That's the first question I had.
I'm not 100% sure why that wasn't working. It could be that your card had expired. So if you don't have a new card, that's probably not it. Or security, BGS security does have the ability to, behind the scenes in the server, extend your expiration date on that card without you really knowing it. But I don't know why. You'd have to reach out to them. It could be that with a new biennium, all old cards failed, and then the new cards got delivered, and in your case you already had your card, so they just got a new expiration date on there. It could have been one of those. The reason for the intercom is because of the funding shortage, and a lot of the legislature is not on site, so we don't have those attendants that are standing there to help let you in, and that's why that intercom button was installed.
And who do we connect with when we press that button?
I don't know. I've never pressed the button. It may be somebody at BGS security. In Montpelier, there is 24/7 security, so it may just go to a pager, and that individual could be sitting in 109 State Street or at 133 State
Okay.
Street. But it is somebody from BGS Security, I believe.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Let's see. Statewide planning, use, and contingency. These funds are used for with planning that we're Commissioner Fitch is trying to expand on our planning needs and getting out ahead of projects instead of somebody coming through and thinking that, we need this. Well, instead of this and BGS it, design and construction, throwing a number at it, use some of these funds, hire an architectural or engineering firm, do some research, do some programming, and come up with a better number for us to present to you or put into the capital bill. The use is about at any given time throughout the year. There are some agencies that need to downsize, upsize, something like that, maybe need another room because of a new hire or something has changed. And some of that money goes to the use. And so that's sort of a reuse type of fund. Contingency, by statute, the commissioner is limited to $50,000 that she can use up to $50,000 for any of these capital bill line items if they come in over budget. The secretary can provide, can go higher than that. I don't know what the level that the secretary is, but very rarely do we go with that. Burlington, 108 Cherry Street parking garage. That's an ongoing project. We have almost completed the design. We'll be going to construction probably in March, late March, April. And when that happens, that is the parking structure at 108. And in the capital bill, there's a line item to for additional funding to complete the construction of that project. But that one, and we'll talk more about that. Jeremy will. And what you will see is the whole building sits on top of a parking garage. The parking garage came first. We bought it from a developer and put a building on top of it. And unfortunately, parking garages in northern climates where there's a lot of salt don't go well.
Go on and enlarge that
Joe, let me-
screen, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, Denise, if you have the ability to increase that, we'd appreciate it.
This here is the present capital bill, FY22-23. It is not the ongoing projects from the last biennium, which I was going over. Up till this point, though, we're roughly still talking about the same thing. So you want last year's biennium, or do you want me to continue on what we're going to be requesting this year?
It would be helpful if you could give us a very brief description of last year and then work into what's going on this year.
Okay. 120 State Street from last year is rear entry and stair towers. That project is basically complete right now. And if you drove to the backside of 120 or off of Memorial Drive, you could see the new glass stair towers that are out back. State House drapes and carpets. We have the carpets that have been replaced are in the high use area. These carpets were originally installed roughly 20 plus years ago. They're hand loom, broad loom, but they're 6 foot wide goods, hand stitched together at the seams, and they're starting to fail. And what they're going to, there's ongoing money for that because the State House itself is a bit different than other major maintenance projects. And that, changing out the drapes is not as a need for a major maintenance project as it is for keeping the State House looking good.
Was there any kind of question?
Yeah, Senator Mazi.
Is there any thought of this garage in Burlington, which has been a disaster? Is there any thought we got to spend $15 million on that basement?
That we do. We have looked at selling the building.
Yeah, let's give it away or something. Oh my God.
Well, even if we gave it away, we'd still lose money. It was a 30+ year loan on that. And last I knew, I think it was 2 years ago when we looked at it, we still owe about $7 million on the building.
God, what a mess. That's $15 million. Jeez. And that's only going to last a few years because we'll have more problems with it.
No, that's the 20-year fix, is to spend all this money. What we did find out doing this study and study of other facilities is that we need to spend about $250,000 a year at each facility to maintain it. So you got to kick all the people out for a couple of weeks during the summer, hose down the whole driving surfaces and do any patching of the sealed wearing surface on the top. And that, they say, will maintain it, but it is expensive.
So
Parking.
15 million is going to put a whole new basement or just seal it, or what?
It's going, well, we have issues where it's into the reinforcing steel, and the reinforcing steel has rusted, so it has expanded, and the concrete is just sloughing off and falling onto cars. We've got a lot of parking spaces that are blocked because of the damage of it. It is, the structure of the garage was built that we just can't let it go. It does hold up the building. So we do have to get in there and patch it, but that is a 20-year fix.
Oh, yeah, I hope so. I'll tell you, because the way the office space is going to be so much available, we didn't know that at the time because of the coronavirus. That's a tremendous amount of money. $16 million is spent on that cellar. Oh, okay.
And you will also see in the new capital bill, there's 2 more garages, Senator. But I'll let Jeremy get to that one.
Boy, thank you. That's exciting. Oh,
Yeah, sounds like my investment strategy. Buy high, sell low.
I know. This is terrible.
I got the same investment strategy. So,
Yeah.
State House, HVAC planning and design. We have money to start that design. I believe we're under contract. Jeremy, is that correct?
We are going through a selection committee for design.
Okay, so we're almost ready to hire the engineering firm to come in and evaluate what we should do with the HVAC system. I know that it was discussed the other day with Commissioner Fitch, and so we'll have more on that from Tay Southworth and Jeremy later on. Department of Labor Facilities Modernization Project. That project was to evaluate the whole building because it hasn't really been touched since the 60s. And they have the original building, boilers, cooling towers. They did get rid of the 60s shag rug, but that was about it. So they're looking at, there's a planning study that's almost complete on what to do with that facility. Northern State Correctional Facility, direct digital HVAC controls. That control system that runs the heating and ventilating up there at the correctional facility is original. It's off of compressed air, pneumatics. And now we're into the computer age, and all of that has to be removed and updated. That project would have been underway already, other than COVID has set us back working in correctional facilities. Asa Bloomer, major renovation. These funds were just an ongoing funding because in 2018, we took over maintenance and repairs to that facility. That was a sort of a setup originally as a lease to own for 20 years. And when we got it, everything, a lot of the equipment was at end of life. So we have gone in and replaced the boilers, the air handlers, what else? Fire alarm system, some heat, boilers, heat, what else? Rooftop. And now we're going to continue and ask for additional funding for the skylight. And also in the basement, we've got a sewer stormwater issue under the basement slab. Jeremy will get into that when we discuss the new capital bill. Springfield, Southern State Correctional Facility door control. This is an ongoing project. Lauren started with a project up at Newport at the correctional facility there. And what this does is goes in and original door control system. Buttons were failing, door locks were failing. The correctional officers did not know if a door was secure or not. So they would have to either physically go over and check the door to make sure it was locked and the inmate was still on the other side, and or they'd have to go to keys to open and lock the doors. So this is one of those things where we're just end of life and we're going through and changing it. Up next is the Southern State Correctional Correctional Facility in Springfield. That's Jeremy's project, and he'll get into that also because of where additional funding being requested. Newport Court replacement. We are in the Orleans Courthouse up there right now, in the old building that was the federal post office. We bought that back in the 80s, and we have some major issues. One, the courts themselves are very tight. Probation and parole is in there, along with state's attorney. Probation and parole right now is really at its end of life, and they need more space. We did a study 2 years ago, I believe, looked at joining with the county courthouse nearby, and that was a $14 million, I think, addition to make all this work, and it still wasn't perfect. So what we're looking for now by using these funds is we've done in the process of a land search nearby and see whether or not we can find suitable land to build and build a new facility and sell the old state building. The elevator in that building does not comply with code. And it's also, I forget when it was installed. I think it was in the 50s. It's very narrow. It's inside the wraparound staircase. So it is very difficult.
So the 9 million is the cost of a new building, a new courthouse?
That's the beginning of a new courthouse.
What do you mean beginning? What's the 9 million for?
For the 1.5, sorry, I'm looking at a different list. That's the new money. I'm gonna let Jeremy talk about new money. Is that okay?
Well, I don't care. Yeah, as long as I know what $9 million is for.
I'm almost done some of this old stuff. The Windsor, what was known as the Southeast State Correctional Facility in Windsor, we'd asked for $700,000 to move part of A&R out of Springfield. Because of COVID and everybody can work from home, they're rethinking that. And I believe in this capital bill, you'll see that we're reallocating that back because that option doesn't appear to be working out for them for multiple reasons. One, don't need all that space, and they didn't like all that razor ribbon on the fence. It was secure though. EV charging stations. This is our energy group that's going out, and this would be for state employees at our office buildings to be able to charge, and also others. And that Dan Edson, our energy program manager, can speak more to this one for the future. State House cafeteria renovations. I know that you were looking for Senator Starr to have a room. This was a flexible meeting room in the cafeteria. We have 3 options. I don't think you'll like any of the 3 options, but next week, I'm hoping to have an estimate, and then that can be presented to you to go over to see if you like any of those options.
You're talking about agricultural committee room?
Well, yes, because I knew that you'd spoken on it. I think it was earlier this week or last week.
Yes.
But the way it came out of the bill was the State House cafeteria in trying to create a room in the stepped up level towards the shared wall with a speaker.
Yeah.
So that's what we have looked at. We haven't looked at the Freeman options. We were never directed to go that route to look at dividing the mailroom or anything like that.
Okay, I would very much like to keep him on the ground floor if at all possible, simply because that's where the Senate committee rooms all are.
Right.
And I did understand that upper step level of the cafeteria would be divided into a committee room, but there were other functions that may be going on there as well. So I'm hoping that you can come back to us with some concrete suggestions on where we might be able to take Senator Starr.
I'll do what I can, sir. I'm going to let Jeremy run through section 2 of the new capital bill. How's that?
Great. Jeremy, before you begin, let me just explain for the new committee members and for anybody that's watching out in the public. The spreadsheet you're looking at, as we said earlier, this is the governor's recommend, the folks who are now explaining things to us. This will be kind of the way the committee runs from this point forward. We are actually bringing in the folks who are asking through the governor for a sum of money to be given to them. This bill is currently in the House where it starts. So the House is going to tweak this. And at some point, this spreadsheet will go from the governor's recommend through the House's tweaks. And then the Senate will have the bill after March crossover, and we will be able to tweak it again. And so the number of columns that you see growing on the spreadsheet right now will basically have two more sections in it, one for the House and one for the Senate. And hopefully we line up at some point down the road. Other than that, if we don't line up properly, we send Dick Mazza down to Alice Emmons and they square it all up and then we're done. Just so you know.
Okay.
Jeremy, your turn.
If I may help first, Senator, is when I'm reading the other spreadsheet, the one as enacted, we're section 2. In the proposed, we're section 1.
Great.
So if Denise could scroll up to section 1, we'd all be on the same page. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, for that introduction. A little bit higher there, Denise. Will probably just these columns that have the numbers perfect. Maybe even just a little bit higher. I want to see the titles on the columns. So you see on the left we have the department requests, and on the right is what actually got included in the governor's recommend. So I'm going to be focusing on the governor's recommend because we've worked through with the administration in developing these numbers, and that's what we've come to believe that we can support our facilities with. So line 3 is the statewide BGS engineering architectural cost annual appropriation. As Mr. Asia mentioned, this is where all of our staff salaries and office supplies. This is what allows us to manage projects. Without this line, we don't have anybody to manage our projects. A point I did mention, contracted PMs, those fees for contracted PMs do not come out of this line. So this line is basically for our staff of design and construction, of the design and construction division of 16 people, and our office supplies to perform our duties. Statewide major maintenance annual appropriation. I'm sorry, let me back up. I'm sorry. The money requested, the $7,371,916. Those are numbers from the finance department. They basically look at our past, and I'm assuming that they add on some inflation, or they're looking at staff that are going to be taking bumps in pay over their annual evaluations, et cetera, and come up with those numbers. Okay, statewide major maintenance annual appropriation. These numbers are developed us trying to hit a minimum of 2% of our building value in deferred maintenance, which is about $14 million. So as you can see, our biennial request is just over $14 million. And this money takes care of a lot of those smaller projects that aren't necessarily worthy of coming to a single line item on the capital bill. And generally we'll take a lot of smaller projects and lump them up together. And Lauren's going to talk extensively on this later, but it's driven by a work order system from operations and maintenance. Statewide physical security enhancements, $250,000 a year for a biennial request of $500,000. This is for Margie Clark to maintain all those card readers. If there's an issue going at the State House, she might have to call in a contractor and take care of some of those physical security enhancements. And this pot of money is what would take care of that, as well as new card readers at new facilities or renovated facilities. But it's not just card readers; it's cameras, anything that has to do with security. Statewide reuse planning, realignment contingency, $500,000 a year for $1 million. This is historically where we've been at and requesting for this line item. I think the last end of the last biennial request, it got bumped up a little bit because there was a special project that they wanted us to look at. There's going to be a lot of planning use coming out of this line, helping us tune up our estimates going forward, so that when we have a capital bill request, we're a little more confident in what the funding that we're requesting. Burlington 108 Cherry, as Mr. Asia has mentioned, this is an ongoing project. We are very close to finishing design. We're expecting final design early February. So next week is when we're expecting those documents for final review. Our final estimate shows us just over 3 million short of being able to complete construction. So that is the request, $3,093,000 for FY22.
You're anticipating that there will be no dollars needed in 23?
That's correct. So we're expecting design to be completed here very soon, and we want to advertise for construction in May. And we're also anticipating construction to take 18 months. So we want to get started before this capital bill is finalized. And if we get that other 3 million coming after July, right, and we should be all set to finish out construction. That is the plan.
Okay.
Springfield Southern State Correctional Facility door control design is underway. We're in the process of bringing on a construction manager to help facilitate the phasing and the final design for this project. This is a pretty big undertaking for Springfield, the Southern State Correctional Facility. A lot of doors to replace that have been taking a beating over the last 20 years. And replacing all the controls that deal with opening and closing and securing those doors, as well as controls that facilitate other items that happen in the living unit, such as lights and ventilation and showers, right? So this is a pretty big undertaking. This project also includes renovating the gymnasium to house up to 50 inmates. And these will be permanent fixtures so that this gymnasium can be used to house 50 inmates for any event in the future, whether it's something at Springfield or we need to relocate inmates from another facility because something else has happened in that facility. So it's coming along nicely, still pretty early in design. We're hoping to be with construction towards the end of summer, and about a 10-month construction schedule is what we're anticipating.
Jeremy, does that mean that there will not be a gymnasium there anymore?
No, Mr. Chair, that the gymnasium will still be there, and they will be temporarily housing some population up to 50 inmates in that location. But we're adding things like gang bathrooms and gang showers so that they can safely house up to 50 inmates in that area. But the gymnasium will remain. We're not touching the floor. In fact, we're protecting the floor because that is one of the cherished items that we have there.
Okay.
Line 9, Rutland Asa Bloomer major renovation. We're requesting $400,000 for design and $1,575,000 for construction. It's FY22 and FY23. So what's going on here is, if you're familiar with the facility, it has a very large skylight, and a skylight has the skylight's toast. They've been patching it, and it's gummed up and trying to keep this thing held up. But we're to the point now where we need some help, and we need to get a professional recommendation on what to do with this skylight. Also, we have stormwater and sanitary sewers running through the basement of the facility, and there's been historic flooding in the basement, which has caused odors, which is a health hazard. And so we also need some help to identify where is this coming from, what's causing it to flood, and how do we patch it up so that we don't have this flooding and the health hazard continue. Line 10, the State House HVAC renovation. Tay Southworth will be able to talk very extensively on this item should you wish to call him in, and he'd be happy to testify. As Joe mentioned or led me to support was we are working through a selection committee to select the designer. We had 4 bidders, so we're working through that process now, and we'll hopefully have an award and contract very soon so that we can start getting some design deliverables underway. And we know that we need to turn this around construction quickly as well, so that, assuming that the pandemic goes away and we can all get back to work at the State House, we want to have that tuned up and ready for you. Newport Courthouse replacement. The previous last biennial allocation was for the property purchase. So now we're looking at $507,000 in FY22 for planning. So we can get all those stakeholders involved and get a firm understanding of what is needed at the new facility. And then FY23 is another $525,000 to finish out design of that new facility.
It's an awful lot of money we're sending to Orleans County.
The $9 million is the completion of a courthouse. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator. That is our current estimate, and we'll have some better numbers once we get design going.
Okay.
Line 12, statewide door controls. So we've very nearly finished Northern State. We're currently designing Southern State. So the next facilities up that are in desperate need of door control replacements are Marble Valley, Chittenden Regional, Northwestern. I think these acronyms have actually changed. And that's not there's my 14 months of experience at BGS talking. I might need Joe to remind me what these changed to.
Well, Northwest is St. Albans. Northeast
Correct.
Correctional Facility is St. Johnsbury.
Yep.
Those
So
are still the same.
So we're missing a few other letters on there. So MV is the Marble Valley Regional Correctional Facility in Rutland. CR is the Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility in South Burlington. What's also missing here is the CCWC, Caledonia Community Work Camp. That is in St. Johnsbury, along with the Northeast State Correctional Facility. And NWCF is the Northwest Correctional Facility in St. Albans.
So the plan here is in FY23, the request for $671,000 is to start the design for almost all of those facilities concurrently. And you can't see it in this table, but in other tables in the proposed capital budget, the out years, starting with FY24, have the potential requests for construction funding.
The work camp in St. Johnsbury, though, is not under NESCF. Is that correct?
It's correct. They're two separate facilities.
I'm aware of
On
that.
the
I just
same
wanted to make
property.
sure. I just wanted to make sure that your request here is only dealing with the jail proper and not the work camp right next
There,
door.
it will be the work camp also in door control, because there are half a dozen or so doors that are in that facility that lock, maybe a dozen. I don't recall off the top of my head how many doors there are. So
Okay.
when you get into the actual spread or table down below, that'll explain it a lot better for you. And it does include the work camp.
Okay.
But I was just going to add that we didn't get a chance to correct this line before administration got a hold of it. So when you get to page 11 of the BGS section in the book, it is corrected in terms of the facilities we're looking to spend this money on. Line 13, the Montpelier State House carpet, seating, draperies, and interior finishes, $51,000 for FY22, $53,000 for FY23. These are turning into annual requests so that our curator and our architect can continue to refurbish certain finishes in the State House. And a lot of it's been carpet lately. And this project, in a sense, is ongoing. We had an appropriation last biennial, but we only spent, I think it was $5,000 of that money, because we need a contract with a carpet supplier that knows what they're doing in a State House type facility, which is government one day and a museum another. So we're waiting for some retainers to get in place before we can keep pursuing replacement of some of the worn out carpets and draperies and other finishes. Line 14, Montpelier 120 State Street, steam lines, interior renovation. we're requesting $525,000 for design in FY23. So what's happening at 120 State Street is the old steam and condensate lines, they run up through the walls and they're embedded in each floor slab. And that's how they heat the facility, is from the floor slab of each floor. And these lines are old and they're starting to leak and not cause havoc, but it's problematic. And it would be very disruptive for us to go in there and jackhammer each floor and replace these steam and condensate lines. So the plan here is to provide a brand new HVAC system for 120 State Street and abandon those steam and condensate lines in place.
Just for the edification of new members and anybody that may be watching in the public, 120 State Street, if you're standing on Main Street looking at the state capitol building, where is it in relation to where you are?
If you're at the State House.
Yes, in the front lawn.
Yep, the front lawn. You put the State House at your back and you look across the street. That is 120 State Street. It's also the home of DMV. Most people might know that facility as DMV.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So being that we be providing a new HVAC system and abandoning those old steam lines in place, we're accomplishing quite a few goals at the same time. You know, only the bottom 2 or 3 floors have ventilation and air conditioning. The top 2 or 3 floors doesn't, and so we'll be providing fresh air ventilation to all floors throughout the facility, as well as air conditioning. And you know, this is kind of a big item lately with the pandemic, providing as much fresh air as we can. So this will help us take care of that in that facility. There's also going to be some other improvements that happen by nature of adding a new HVAC system, such as lighting improvements, you know, some small energy stuff like that, new electrical wiring through each floor to help us become more efficient. The reason why we thought this was less disruptive was that we can if we go this route and provide a new HVAC system, we're only going to be evacuating 1 to 2 floors at a time to do this work instead of the entire facility at once. So this project will include having to provide some swing space, temporary space for tenants that have to be vacated from their floor while we do construction. But this time we don't think we need to vacate the entire facility at once. Line 15, Brattleboro Courthouse re-roof. This facility is also known as the Wyndham Superior Courthouse. And O&M has been working on this roof for a long time, and lots of patches, lots of minor repairs to try to keep it stable and not leaking. And we're finally to the point where we need some help to redesign this roof. Not a full redesign, but we just need some help to fix its issues. And so we have a request for $100,000 in FY23 to begin that design process. Burlington 32 Cherry Parking Garage, Cherry Street Parking Garage renovations. Here we go. So parking garages, which you'll see a common theme of here. Basically, you know, a lot of the same issues that Mr. Asia already spoke of about 108 Cherry. It's received a lot of water and a lot of salt over the years, and it's starting to crumble on us. Fortunately, it's not as bad off as 108 Cherry, so the request is quite a bit smaller than 108 Cherry. We're requesting $865,000 in fiscal year 23 to design and begin construction. Rutland Multimodal Garage renovation. The good news is this is the last garage on our list. But the bad news is this is substantially larger than 32 Cherry and more similar to 108 Cherry. And we are requesting $609,000 in FY23 to start design. This request, you know, we base this off of lessons learned from 108 and what we're seeing in our investigations at 108. And so we expect it to be somewhat similar, although a little bit smaller. So you see in a total project cost estimate of 13.7 million thereabouts.
God, we got 30 million into two garages. Can't even believe it. Yeah, that's unbelievable. I think we ought to fill them with concrete and just park them take the bus. Gee. Oh my God, what a waste. Okay.
Statewide stormwater planning. A little bit of background that A&R has recently passed the 3-acre rule. Okay, it has a more formal name, which I don't recall, but we call it the 3-acre rule. And basically what it means is any property that has 3 acres or more of impervious surface, that's roofs, paved roadway, parking lots, right? Anything that basically sheds water. If you have 3 acres or more, you're required to provide a certain level of stormwater treatment. And the state, as you can imagine, has quite a few properties that have more than 3 acres of impervious surface. I believe we have 8 identified and 3 of them with stormwater permit renewals that are coming up. So we're requesting $609,000 to start designing stormwater treatment systems at those 3 facilities that have stormwater permits that are coming up.
That's just for design.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
No, that is for starting design, and then we'll be going for future years into construction.
We ever
So-
thought about putting our own design team in place ourselves instead of hiring all this out, millions and millions of dollars? What would be wrong about that?
That if we use our in-house engineers for that, we wouldn't be able to get other work done that we're working on. So it's a cost shift.
No, I mean to hire new people to set up our own division.
Well, sir, I'm not opposed to hiring new people, but that's,
No, I would just like to do a comparison of the millions of dollars we spend on outside consultants and design and what.
this money here too is, when you look at the total line item that we're looking for in the future, is 6.6 million. It's actually potentially greater than that. But if we were to hire people, it would only be short term to be using them for this design. We're hoping to get design and construction done potentially in 4 to 5 years. Our first one up, and is the biggest concern, is Montpelier complex. So if you understand the Montpelier complex, our biggest area that we are concerned with is from 109 State Street to 133 State Street, which basically bookends the State House. When you look at the flat roofs and the roofs that pitch off, they're basically going to the State House lawn. And I don't know of an easy way to get any of that storm water to a location that we can run it into a grass swale or underground for it to drain back into the subsurface. I don't think people would be impressed with a lawn fountain out on the State House lawn, but they didn't do the skating rink this year, so it's an option. But these are the things that we're looking at and have to bring in the outside firm to do. So they're going to do the surveying, which we would have to purchase surveying equipment. In this instance, I believe it is more efficient to contract it out. This is more design work. More construction work than design. Thank you.
If we hire a whole new team of designers, we're going to have to add to that pension problem we were talking about yesterday.
Well, you're spending a lot of millions in design and consulting. I'll tell you that. If you look at the whole package.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
having been off this committee for so many years, I'm reluctant to comment so early in the session, but I just want to say that I kind of share Senator Mazza's dismay. I find some of the price tag here surprising.
God.
and
It is,
troubling.
and it's the kind of conversation that probably should have started, in this case, in natural resources, when we decided to move into this 3-acre design scheme. And I don't know how everybody gets to dovetail information with each other, but we seem to be making decisions in silos, and it gets frustrating when you put all the silos suddenly together and you realize there's an impact somewhere else. It's like playing whack-a-mole.
I wasn't referring specifically to stormwater. I'm thinking about just all the price tags in general are surprisingly high.
Yeah.
Huge numbers, huge.
I know
They are huge numbers, but I may say typically design is about 10% of the total project cost.
Can we do it better in-house if we had hired our own people? That's what I'm saying. I don't know you could do it on every project, but I'm just saying in some of these, well, you could do it for 5%. I don't know the figure comparison. I don't know, but you're hiring it out, and these people got to make a profit. That's nothing wrong with that, but it always amazes me when I look at these sheets, the amount of money we just give to consultants and design, and it just blows my mind. I just can't
Understand if we had more in-house architects and our engineers, I would need additional drafting or CAD help to support those people and then go out into the field and collect the data. This way for stormwater, I need stormwater specialist, somebody who's licensed.
I'm not saying everything. We talked about separating stormwater, maybe.
Right. And so if I was to
You
look
like
at,
to pick up the phone and hire a consultant. It's easier for you. You say, okay, give me a figure. That's easy. Then you do the job.
I wish it was that easy, but
You
that's
just
not
don't
it.
want to do the tough work. You just want to do whatever the figure is.
Some of the smaller projects that come out of major maintenance, we have used our in-house staff. But if I'm looking to build a courthouse or a large state office building or repair a parking garage, I want to bring in more qualified people than I have on my staff at that time. Because if I have the staff, I have to keep them busy, which would mean I might need more money in the capital bill. I don't know where that line is, Senator. And I know in the 80s, we had an architect on staff, and that's what that individual did. And that's where I was starting when I was drafting on paper. And that architect kept 3 draftspeople busy all the time. So we may end up with more in the long run, and then I've got to keep them busy. So I don't know what that line is, though.
We aren't going to agree, so let's move on.
It's Friday.
Yeah, let's get up.
Mr. Chair, should I continue?
Please go ahead.
All right, I believe the next one up is line 19, which is the Waterbury State Office Complex Historic Core Roof Replacements. And anybody familiar with the Waterbury State Office Complex, there's a lot of buildings, a lot of roof in that area. And most of them are historic, and they're slate and copper. And we've been repairing these for a while, and many of them are to the point now where we can no longer repair and we need replacement. And Senator Moss is not going to like this, but we need help to design those replacements and phase this out, right, to minimize the impact to the facility. So about $1 million in design and starting construction in FY22. And then what you'll see in FY23 and in the out years is what we're anticipating to be a phased construction schedule. And just a reminder that those slate roofs are incredibly expensive, but those facilities are historic, and we're required to keep them looking historic. We're looking at options for better materials to have a 50 to 100 year design life, but maybe not as brittle as slate. So definitely have some negotiations going on with historic preservation to see what we can do here to help get the best value out of this state office complex roof situation.
Okay.
Line 20, Montpelier 111 State Street, renovation of stack area, HVAC upgrades, and elevator. A few years before my time, I believe it was 2015, if I remember correctly, the state libraries moved out of 111 State Street. And the stack area, right, was large bookcases, 2 stories high. And so now we have this vacant 2-story room that we call the stack area. And this is prime real estate. And we think this is a good opportunity to build 2 floors of general office space in this stack area And that would increase our general office space by 13,500 square feet in the Capitol complex. In doing that, it does increase the HVAC demand on the facility, and the existing HVAC system is just a little bit too small, but it's also outdated, so it's needed for an update as well. So we would go ahead and upgrade the HVAC system while we're there. There's also a big ADA issue with the existing elevator. The elevator is old. It's the original elevator, and back in the day, ADA wasn't an issue. So this elevator doesn't really meet it doesn't meet ADA requirements. So this is also an opportunity for us to locate a new elevator and shaft in the facility.
This is the old Supreme Court library?
Was it a Supreme Court library or state libraries, Joe?
Well,
Yes, it's behind the Supreme Court
Right.
office area, known as a Supreme Court library or at state libraries. Yes.
but it's close enough so that, for instance, if we wanted to move legislative council in there, we could do that.
Not until you give us enough money to renovate it.
Oh, I know. I'm just helping out in my head. First, we'll have to give you lots of money to hire a designer, apparently.
Yeah, that's where they want to take the money from the design and give it to them.
Okay, let's keep going.
Just to cap 111 State Street, the request is for FY23, $158,000 to kick off design. Line 21, Montpelier State House, exhibition, interpretation, design, and construction. I believe it was last year there was new legislation to provide some new art and other types of interpretations in the State House. And so this request of $41,000 for FY22 and $42,000 for FY23 are for the curator and or architect to manage those new, manage the design and construction of those new exhibits and other interpretation services. Last item, the White River Junction Courthouse renovation. This project was funded for design quite some time ago. I'm not sure if I have that. Design was completed and shelved because we didn't get funding for construction, and now we're to the point where we finally have some cap space, and we're requesting funding to construct that design. So requesting an FY23 a construction budget of 1.5 million. That's 1,521,000 to be exact. I'm seeing I'm sorry, there's some more numbers in the out years here. So Joe, remind me what we had to do here. I'm guessing we had to break up that construction funding request because of our capital bill limitations.
That is correct.
So I apologize, I got up on the wrong foot there. So we're requesting 1,521,000 to start construction, as probably in the lines of some testing for hazardous materials and any other small services we can get out of the way. And then we need to start banking construction budget in the out years so that we can facilitate a full construction project.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to interject briefly. I want to praise Jeremy for on the fly delivering the commissioner's presentation, which was intended for next week. I don't think he was expecting to go through line by line, but I think as a debut, he did quite well. And so I wanted to offer praise for that.
Thank you, Eric. Just for the committee's edification, my plan was to break us at 3 o'clock. And I noticed that Senator Parent already had to leave for another engagement, but I was planning on terminating us this afternoon at 3. If you need to get up for whatever reason temporarily, feel free to do so. And I don't know how much Lauren has to share with us. Jeremy, are you finished with your portion of this?
Mr. Chair, I believe so. Available for questions, but otherwise I'm done.
Okay.
I've got a question, Joe.
You have Senator Mazza, go ahead.
What was the cost of the study to do the State House space? We were looking for a room for Senator Starr. We hired, who'd we hire for that?
Freeman French?
Yeah. What was the cost of that study?
That
Yes.
I don't, Eric?
I believe Eric Philcorn, BGS, I believe it was around $20,000.
That answer your question, Dick?
Thank you. Yep.
It might have been
Okay.
18, it might have been 22, but right in that neighborhood.
So Jeremy, you're done. Lauren, I don't know if how much you've got to cover with us, but I guess we'll start and see.
Okay. Good afternoon. I do not have as much as Jeremy, I don't think, so should finish on time. So I'm going to talk about the major maintenance program a little bit and how we pick our projects that get funded with that appropriation. That's a program that I oversee. So as Jeremy mentioned earlier, we own about 230 buildings, and the value of those buildings is around 900 million. And industry practice says that we should be spending 2 to 4% of the value of those buildings on maintenance and keeping up with deterioration. So there are two parts to the maintenance of the building. So there's the operational budget, which is O&M staff salaries and operational expenses for daily things like filter changes. And then the other piece is the major maintenance budget. So major maintenance covers the large repairs, the major system replacements. Typical lifespan of the major components in our building is around 20 years. All of the big expensive things typically last about 20 years. So when those items are due for replacement, they're funded through major maintenance.
Lauren, can I just stop you for a minute?
Sure.
I have one of those fancy little yellow hands on my screen from Senator McCormick. Does that mean, Dick, you have a question?
That's left over from the previous witness.
Oh, you just haven't figured out how to get rid of the hand yet, or has your question not been answered yet?
You didn't call on me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Been up there for 2
Well,
days.
I think he's still here if you want to ask your question.
Okay, thanks. And I
can't-
apologize. I apologize to the witness now. Yeah, it sounds like we have a lot of flat roofs. And I'm wondering why we don't make them available to solar companies to place, because it seems to me we want solar energy, but the problem with it is that, we have these beautiful meadows. We don't want to fill them with ugly solar collectors, but on top of a flat roof would seem to me wouldn't do any harm at all.
I'm not sure, Jeremy or Joe, you have an answer to that question.
Dan Edson, the energy program manager, would be the best one to answer that question. He would be able to tell you if they've looked into it or not. So we could schedule him to come up and give you that information.
That might
Yeah,
be
I don't
helpful.
know. I don't know if we'd need to have him come in as a witness, but I'd like to inquire about that.
Good. He's the
And I'm
one to
not just
answer
saying-
that question, sir.
What's that?
He's the one who could answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Second question, and then I'll get it back to the witness. A member of this committee back in the old days when Senator Mazza and I were on it together, and she'll remain nameless in case she was wrong about this, but she insisted that 120 State Street was originally designed for the government of fascist Italy, and that Mussolini didn't like it, and so we got it cheap. We bought the design. Is there any truth to that?
That would be a David Sheets question.
Okay,
And he's coming in next week, so you can ask that question.
I will ask him.
It was designed pre-war, and it was done by French Freeman. So
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Lauren, you're back.
Okay. So typical kinds of major maintenance projects that we would fund with the annual appropriation are roof replacements, HVAC system replacements, parking lot repairs, duct cleaning, lead and asbestos abatement, flooring replacements, all those kinds of things. So every year we choose a number of projects to complete with those major maintenance funds. And those projects are chosen from information from multiple sources. So we have information in our work order system, which is called Maintenance Connection. We have facility condition assessment data, reports that were done on our buildings over the last 5 years. And then we have the expertise of our design and construction staff and our operations and maintenance staff. And beginning around now, it's this time of year and into the beginning of February, we start working, design and construction starts working with operations and maintenance to determine the most critical projects across the state that need to be completed with the funds that are coming available in July. So in each district, there's a district facilities manager, and they, with their staff, have their own top priorities for the buildings that they're responsible for. And those projects are considered individually, within the district, they have their own priorities, but then they're also compared across the state. Every district has their top priorities. And so we look at the state as a whole also. So the projects that are chosen really reflect the most urgent needs, both locally and for all of BGS. Our highest priority projects, we call them priority ones, are those that involve life safety issues, code compliance issues, equipment that is end of life, or a building system where failure is imminent or would be very disruptive if allowed to fail. And then when we're prioritizing our projects, we're also considering the type of facility. So facilities that are used 24/7, like a correctional facility or public safety facility, they just require more upkeep due to the amount of time they're being used and then the type of use that they're subjected to. So for example, duct cleaning at a correctional facility might be done every 5 years. At an office building, it's not going to be done nearly so often. It's more like 10 years in between duct cleaning projects. So the work order system has priority 1, 2, and 3. Priority ones are the types of items that I just mentioned. Priority 2 items usually need attention in the near future, maybe the next year, maybe 2 years out. And then priority 3 items are those that we know will be coming to end of life, but they don't need any work done on them yet. Typically, they would move up in priority as they get worse, and that could be every year. They're able to move up as other projects come off the list and get completed. Something that we're watching because we know the end of life is coming, but it's not getting worse. It may stay at a priority 3 for a little while. So it gives us a picture of the projects that are going to be coming over the next few years. A good example of that is in an asphalt shingle roof, where you can start to see the shingles are looking worn. They're curled up on the edges, but the roof isn't leaking. So it's in as a priority 3, and then that roof gets checked on periodically and will move up in priority. If it starts leaking, it may go right from a 3 to a priority 1.
Lauren, are you going to be referring to the spreadsheet?
I'm not going to be referring to the spreadsheet today, no.
Okay, so Denise, could you take that down for us? Sorry about that.
Sure. And then we also may bundle projects, smaller major maintenance projects. So if we have a couple projects that are taking place in one facility and they have similar scopes, they use similar trades, they're in the similar part of the building, we may bundle those together, bid them out as one project with one contractor who's got one set of subcontractors. It's one mobilization cost. There's less coordination. You don't have 2 GCs in there with their own set of subs kind of working around each other. So it's more efficient for BGS, but it's also more efficient for the tenants because then they're just getting disrupted once. Depending on the project, they may have to relocate, and it could be within the building, or they may have to move to different space during construction. So only bothering them one time instead of multiple times, over a longer period of time is more efficient for getting their work done as well. And we would do that. It really depends on the type of project. If we had duct cleaning and some tile work and some bathroom work, we might combine those. We wouldn't combine some duct cleaning work with some parking lot repairs because there's not the overlap there to achieve some efficiencies. So we fund a large number of planned projects every year with major maintenance, but we also fund some unplanned projects. And those are projects that are not emergency projects, but they failed sooner than we were anticipating. So they could be a catch basin that in the spring, we see that some of the brick around the grate has failed and the grate's not sitting correctly anymore. So we've got to reset that, ends up having a pavement patch put in there. We've got a roof that starts leaking. So there may be a long-term patch that's put on that roof. They're typically smaller in scope and cost, but they're still kind of long-term repairs. So there's a number of those projects that we would complete every year as they come up. Quick snapshot of last year's appropriation. We funded over 120 projects with that money, and those projects are spread out over 50 of our BGS buildings. So many buildings have more than one thing happening in them. Some examples is the public safety roof in Derby. We replaced that this fall. A 128 State Street porch. We did repairs to that this fall. There'll be some spring cleanup. The windows at Brattleboro State Office Building, we're replacing those. Those are going to be under construction here when the weather improves. And then we're going to be replacing the generator and the transfer switch at Northeast Regional Correctional Facility. And we're doing a fire alarm system replacement at Rutland Courthouse. So those are projects we undertook with last year's money, but there's easily the same types of projects just for different buildings that are on the list for this year.
Do you happen to know how many buildings BGS has in its pocket of responsibilities?
236, I believe, is the number.
I don't know why I've never thought to ask that question before, but okay, interesting.
And that includes the Big E, which is not in Vermont.
Oh, okay. Are you done with your presentation?
I am done, ready for any questions.
Committee questions. Denise, while they're thinking about it, Denise, you have your pencil. Joe, you gave the name of the individual who could answer that question. And I've forgotten who that is, but we have David Sheets coming in next Tuesday afternoon, I believe, and would love to have that person in at the same time for part of that conversation. If you could tell us who that was.
Dan Edson.
Okay. I'm trusting Denise is writing that down. So we'll get that question answered for you, Dick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions, comments? All right. I think we are done with the presentation today. So witnesses, thank you very much for coming to join us.
You're welcome.
I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again, especially if the House has tweaked in a way that manages to gather your ire. We'll be expecting to have you back in front of the committee.
Okay, good.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee, we have, oh, I forgot Eric Philcorn is here. I don't know if Eric had any special things he wanted to say.
I wanted to say have a very special weekend, everybody, and stay warm.
That was easy. Committee, before you go, next week, you're going to start getting a lot more into substance. And I don't know if anybody is experiencing any troubles getting on or anything like that, but if so, let me know. And we'll try to see if we can't work out details.
Are we offline now?
I see Catherine. Well, we're not offline yet. Catherine is still connected to us. I don't know if she wanted to say anything in particular. She might be out skiing, judging by that
Catherine, how are you?
picture. She
Oh,
doesn't appear to be responding.
She shut us off.
Yeah. All right, Denise, I'm going to have you cut us out of